Hello, my name is Way Too Angry About Wrestling, and yes, we do have some breaking news. Sasha Banks may or may not have been released from the WWE. There are some reports out there saying she has gone from the company, and there are other reports saying, well, actually, we're not so sure right now. So, there is your news. Do with it what you wish. That's right, as of me talking, we don't 100% know what is going on with Sasha Banks in WWE, but some very reputable sources, such as Wrestling Inc.'s Raj Giri, has said that she has gone from the company, and other reputable sources, such as Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp, have also said, well, I can't confirm it, but I also can't deny it. Now, usually there's no smoke without fire, but as a quick aside too, of course we're allowed to talk about this stuff. So many people are going, oh, we shouldn't say anything. But we do this with all sports. Over here in the UK, the Premier League transfer window is now open, and I kid you not, in one day, 53 players were linked with one specific club. It's just called being a fan. You dive in, you swim around, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm having fun. You always have to respect the human beings in question, otherwise go crazy. Anyway, we're off track. As always, point is, WWE has just made its biggest mistake in years. Why? Here's why. So here's the deal. Whether Banks leaves WWE or stays, I don't actually think the company has ever treated her as she deserves. Now, do not get me wrong, she is a super duper whooper star, but she never actually made it to that top tier where you're basically protected like royalty and you never get beaten. Like, she was kind of sniffing around it for a while, but she never broke through. I don't really understand why this was the case. And you have to imagine there's frustration on her side too, especially because recently she did walk out of the promotion alongside Naomi. And there's also other murmurings out there that she may have sat down with some lawyers and said, I want to get out of my contract. And my word, if that bit is true, well, the shib is about to hit the fire. The fan, not the fire. The other way is disgusting. A reason Sasha could be doing this, though, is due to what these deals say. I mean, let's go back to 2017 with Neville. One day he woke up, he's like, man, I can't do this anymore. I gotta go home and play Nintendo. But because of the contract, he was basically just frozen out of wrestling for ages. And I doubt that Sasha Banks wants that. She has the world at her fingertips. I'm sure she wants to go and embrace it. This is not a conversation we should be having, however, because unless the outcome is Sasha Banks comes back to WWE and she gets fired off into this upper echelon and we make sure we glue her in there, I don't think we are treating her in the way that she should need to be treated. I mean, there's a reason that all the crazy people that go, oh man, no more WWE guys to AEW, don't say that when it comes to the boss, because everybody who understands wrestling can see what an amazing fit she'd be. This isn't just fun to say either. Go and look at the numbers. Even though she was never a focal point of the show, they would increase when she was on the screen. And even when she was running around with the Women's Tag Team Championships, which WWE quite clearly never gave a damn about, there was always a buzz if Sasha Banks had one of those titles over her shoulder. But she went down to NXT for the Great American Bash in 2020, and lo and behold, it turned out that episode actually outdid AEW, which was a very rare occurrence. And during the pandemic, when WWE was up against the presidential elections, we had a Sasha Banks versus Bayley match. And what happened to the ratings? They were far higher than they were the previous week. Dave Meltzer, he of Wrestling Observer fame, in his newsletter even said, I accredit this all to the popularity of Sasha Banks. So people care about her, they want her to succeed. Mr. Burns had done it, the power plant had won it. What makes this even more crazy is that Sasha is only 30 years old, and any wrestler worth their salt will tell you it's about the mid-30s when you start to hit your peak, which means the prime of her career and all of her amazing matches are still round the corner. And also, she is one of the best wrestlers in North America. And look, you don't have to agree with me. You can say, Simon, I think you're totally incorrect. But the fact that I can put her into the conversation, well, I feel like that sums it up. The fact she's able to do this within the WWE too, where they stick to a very rigid playbook, is even more impressive. I don't mean that in a bad way. If that's what WWE wants to do, that's what WWE is allowed to do. But it goes to show how creative she is and that she's able to think outside the box. And seriously, just go through all of her major matches. Can you ever remember having a bad one? Let's give it a second, let's give it a second, let's give it a second. I got nothing. She also sells moves like she's been killed, which just heightens the emotion, so she has dedicated herself to this craft. And she's come out the other side just a little bit of a hero. Banks even has the power to set the internet on fire just by changing her hair colour or going, oh my gosh, we got some new wrestling gear made. And given how much WWE loves all that engagement, it is still mad to me that she was never put in a position, I hate to say it because everyone's going to go nuts, like Charlotte Flair. I'm not just referring to her, that's just the comparison that everybody uses, but take a Randy Orton, take a Roman Reigns. We all know that they exist in this very special place. And for the life of me, I can't understand why we didn't take Sasha Banks, open the door and say, please step on through. So it just seems like the powers that be see this differently, and I know, she has been the champion multiple times. But do you remember during that period when we were all laughing like, ha ha ha, how long will it be until WWE takes the belt off of her? Of course you do, it was actually a running joke, because she would win the thing and then sometimes 48 hours later, she had lost it again. And some people will now argue, yes, that she's very hard to work with. Well, one, we don't know that. We don't have any accurate stats that back that up. But also, two, all the best seem to have this streak in them. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Chris Jericho, Brock Lesnar, even Bret Hart. I mean, Charlotte Flair threw a championship title down on the floor live on television when she wasn't meant to. Sometimes these things just happen, but you go backstage and you make up because you understand the person's worth. So let's not treat this like this has never happened in the history of the world, because it has. And as we look at 2022 right now, Cody Rhodes out with injury, Randy Orton out with injury, Roman Reigns apparently never coming back to television. So why wouldn't you just survey your entire roster and go, right, who's really popular, who can step into this void? And I'm sorry, but Sasha Banks would be an amazing choice. And if nothing else, she has this loyal fan base that will follow her till the end of times. I know they can be a little bit crazy every now and then, but at least they're passionate, and you can always rely on passion. If you did all this too, you could also sell her as a homegrown talent, because she is one of the rare success stories where she started all the way down in developmental and now has made it into the main roster. And let's say we do this. What's the worst that can happen? Like, what is the absolute destruction we could end up here? A popular wrestler is featured on television a lot. I fail to see the issue. I mean, the fact that if she does leave, she already has a potential Hollywood career on the cards after starring in The Mandalorian, and the fact that if she did go to AEW, numbers would increase, even if only for a little while, proves that she absolutely has something. And given that she is on WWE's books right now, why don't we just get this into our heads? Make something happen. So in many ways, I hope she does stay with WWE and fulfills this legacy, but outside of all of that, never forget she's a human being, never forget she's an individual, and all that really matters is that she's happy and that she finds peace. Because nobody wants to be stressed in the workplace, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a lawyer, or whether you are a professional wrestler or a sports entertainer. So that's what I will send to both her and Naomi. I just hope they find exactly what they're looking for. Bet you didn't see the video ending like that. Now please do leave a comment below and let us know what you think about the Sasha Banks situation. Do you want her to stay in WWE? Do you want her to leave? Do you want to go to AEW? Or do you think all of this is a bunch of nonsense? Like the video, share the video and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com where we will keep you up to date with what does happen with Sasha Banks. Make sure you follow us on social media at Simon316 and at WhatCultureWWE. We have a lot of videos, a lot of what at the moment are about Sasha Banks, so you can get all the details right here. My name is Simon What Culture. Thank you for joining me as always. Remember that I love you, and I'll see you soon.